job will be never to tell people these things that I know. I don't even have to come into the office. I can do this job from home.
Yo, at first glance, why don't you follow the edge? I heard that Mike Collins from Apollo is dead. My girl's fat girl is just crawling to bed. Don't spit if you want, just swallow instead. Swallow instead. Can you hear me, Siri? Swallow instead. Hello, Siri. Is gravity a theory or a fact? Thought my tampons in the house where my period's at. Get my rap on when I'm pissed about the serious crap. Passing so fast through space, time bends in half. After blasting through warp speed, we get to plaid. Don't listen if you don't like when I spit these raps. Rhymes I write like lightning, I write so fast. I'm like Mike Tyson, you ain't got to fight in shaft. Yo, I'm going back to basics, flat smack in the faces. You can't have gas pressure without adjacent to the vacuum of space, bitch, without a container. Like paying for a lawyer without a retainer. I ain't playing, about to let a slug out of this chamber. When you see the red dot, yo, no doubt it's a laser. Helio flatty dude, shot up for later, shot up for later. Helio flatty dude, shot up for later. I've been around the world, and I measure the earth, measure the earth. The devil, he's so clever with words, but level don't never mean curved, it never means curved, and meta from the metaverse, the metaverse. Does playing Call of Duty help build my immunity up? Insurance policy paying you, they usually bluff. I'm not saying they won't do it, but it's usually tough. The last few years I've seen some unusual stuff, but if I mention the shot, you say I'm off the beat. So now I'm beating off to the thoughts of shots in me. What a rotten little awful getting off scot-free. Son of a gun of a bitch I've come to be. Shaking up the game to break up the redundancy. And if it wasn't for work, they'd have no taxes. And if it wasn't for burnt, there'd be no ashes. And if it wasn't for birds, egg be no hatching. And if it wasn't for dirt, there'd be no traffic. And if it wasn't for hurts, there'd be no passion. And if it wasn't for learning, then why all the classes? If it wasn't for your purse, yo, I'd have nothing to snatch. And if I don't come in first, then I'm coming in last. I've been around the world, and I measure the earth, measure the earth. The devil, he's so clever with words, but level don't never mean curved, it never means curved, and meta pause from the man. All these atheists must hate my guts, cause I say to their face, space is fake and stuff. NASA astronauts, everything you say is suspect, cause I suspect you make it up. Not your average FE thespian beast, faster than faggots fasting at a lesbian feast. She that loves me the least will give me nothing to eat, but he that loves me the most will give me something to smoke. This ain't how I met your mother loving murder, she wrote. The spin of the earth should've made your vertebrae broke. Every word that I spoke, you couldn't refute it. Water finds its true level, so you couldn't dilute it. You couldn't dilute it. It can't be refuted. You couldn't dilute it. You couldn't dilute it.
Who the f do you think you are, you...
Alright. Live. I believe. Hello. Alright, I think this is all working. Let me see, let me check the stream. Check. Sensor. So it's kind of interesting, and we're gonna talk about Olaus Magnus. So this guy is the author of the Carta Marina map that I've talked about before. Basically, I believe he was a victim of early censorship, like some of the earliest censorship that I've come across. This guy was a very prominent figure. He did a lot of work. He wrote a lot of books, and you know, he made the map. And the map was actually like, it was considered to be one of the most accurate maps of its time. So people were using this map like for navigation frequently. I know I've talked about this before, but it's just a slight recap. So I couldn't find that much information on him except for his Wikipedia page, and then there's a couple of other websites that talk about him a little bit, but basically, I mean, I can't find a picture of the guy. You search up pictures of him, all you get is like stuff from his works that he drew. But you know, it's kind of interesting that there's a picture of his brother. I mean, these guys were high up. They had like positions of power in a lot of different places, and so here's his brother. I mean, he's an archbishop right here of Uppsala. So they both were from Sweden, and there's a picture of this guy, but if you try to look for a picture of Olaus, you won't find one, which I find that kind of funny. I don't know. So let's see here, got the pictures, no pictures of him. Alright, and we have his famous map though. A lot of people talk about the Carta Marina. Just some of the stuff that was on it. I got a bigger picture of it, I'll pull up in a second here. But map was created in Rome. I went over this in a different video, so you guys can go watch this if you want. But the main point I'm going to highlight here is that like the original map's copies passed out of public knowledge after 1574, and the map was largely forgotten. Okay, perhaps because few copies were printed by Pope Paul III asserted a 10-year copyright. So he put a copyright on a map in 1574. So that just kind of like got me to be curious about, you know, what is the history of copyright, when did it start, and why. I got the definition of copyright: the exclusive legal right given to an originator or an assignee to print, publish, perform, film, or record literary, artistic, or musical material, and to authorize others to do the same. Okay, so he put a copyright on it, so he had the right to print that map, and he didn't print anymore. So he put a copyright on it, and then said, alright, that's it. That's enough. We got him. We don't want anybody else to see this. Right? The map was also written with, let's see here. The map was written right here. It has a super long name, and it translates right here. You know, right there, if you want to read that. So then there's another translation too, right here, and this is a long translation. It goes and goes and goes. You know, it goes all the way over to here. So both of these translations, you know, and there's another one that I found that I probably will pull up here soon that's even longer. Like, oh, right here. This is the title to his book, right here. Right there. And then it goes ... So it's a super long title. You know, it talks about war and buildings, the people, and how they made their, you know, this book that he wrote had all the information of the northern people. A simple translation is a description of the northern peoples. Right? So back to the map though, the Carta Marina, which was copyright. So we went over the definition of copyright, and then I started looking at the history of copyright. So like, you know, was that I'm trying to figure out, is this like the earliest, you know, copyright that we've seen here? And I found that it's somewhere on this page here that, let's see here, you can probably find it quick. I pulled all this up last night, so I was gonna do this stream last night, but it was getting late and I was tired, and I had schoolwork. Been busy. Alright. here we go. Because this is where they were. They were in Venice, Rome, that area. So the Republic of Venice granted its first privilege for a particular book in 1486. So they were already, doing that, holding people back and stuff. And I was reading further on through this, and it's actually pretty crazy. Like, people who were printing their own stuff, who had their own presses, were considered, like, fanatics. And there were, like, 800 people that were put into jail. Let me see if I can find it here. I think it was 800. Alright. So, right here, we got it. As the menace of printing spread, they called it a menace, right? This is in the same time frame where Olaus wrote his book. So, just keep that in mind. Governments established centralized control mechanisms, and in 1557, the English crown thought to stem the flow of seditious and heretical books by chartering the Stationers' Company. The right to print was limited to the members of that guild, and 30 years later, the Star Chamber was chartered to curtail the great enormities and abuses of divers contentious and disorderly persons, professionage, the art of mystery, of printage or selling of books. The right to print was restricted to 2 universities. So only the universities could print. What does that sound like? Only the universities could make considered like reliable information, right? And to the 21 existing printers in the city of London, which had 53 printing presses. So they were letting existing printers stay, but the French crown also repressed printing here. And this chick was burned, or this guy, he was burned at the stake in 1546 as the English took control of type founding and subversive views that should be tolerated, not censored. Oh, whoops. I missed a whole line there. I'm sorry. Yeah, as the English took control of the type founding in 1637, printers fled to the Netherlands. A confrontation with the authority made printers radical and rebellious. And 800 authors, printers, and book dealers were incarcerated in Bastille before it was stormed in 1789. So, I mean, this is right here. I mean, this is pre-censorship. This is before censorship was a thing, but there were obviously people were still being censored. So keep in mind this same time frame, they call it a menace, right? And 1557. Now Olaus wrote his book that was published in 1555. Right? Now keep in mind, his map was made earlier than this. It was made in 1539. That's when his map was like started to print. And then the 10-year copyright was put on it. So he couldn't publish his next his book because his book has the map in it. He couldn't publish the book until the copyright was up. So he waited until the 10-year copyright was up to publish this book, a description of the northern people, and he had to do it by himself. He didn't have any help. He had his own press. He had printed it on his own press. So, like, that to me just shows, like, Olaus was scared about the same thing happening with his book. He didn't want to take it to anybody. He didn't want his work to be copyrighted. He didn't want somebody else to take his work and make it so no one could see the information he had. And we're gonna get to that information. I mean, these are all drawings by him, high resolution. Like, this is some crazy stuff. Alright, so we went through the history of copyright. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Pope Paul III. This is the guy that copyright Olaus map. And this dude was involved in, like, wars of religion. Yes, just some crazy stuff. And he was Pope at a time where the Roman Empire was, like, losing its hold or its grip. So he was definitely, like, in a different situation than most popes were before him. And right here, this is the one thing I want to point out is Pope Paul III was a significant patron of artists, including Michelangelo, and it is to him that Nicholas Copernicus, the astrologer, dedicated his heliocentric treatise. So, what is that? What is his heliocentric treatise? This was when Nicholas Copernicus wrote a book of his theory surrounding that the Earth is a spherical object and the Sun is the center of the universe. So he said heliocentric. So that's basically saying the Sun is the center of our solar system or whatever. So the funny thing about this is, he just wrote a book, right? He had it published. He dedicated this book to Pope Paul III, the same guy that censored this, the same guy that censored the Carta Marina. So Pope Paul III censors the Carta Marina, and then you have Copernicus writing this dedication. And there's a few things that I want to highlight, and this is the whole of the dedication. This isn't the book. The book is really long that he wrote, but he lays out his whole model or whatever he thinks he knows. And as you read through this, he's writing this letter. It's a dedication in the book to the Pope. So he's just talking to him, and he says, as soon as some people hear that in this volume, which I have written about the revolutions of the spheres in the universe, I ascribe to certain motions of the terrestrial globe, they will shout that I must immediately repudiated together with this belief, for I am so enamored of my own opinions that I disregard what others may think of them. I am aware that a philosopher's ideas are not subject to the judgment of ordinary persons, because it is his endeavor to seek truth in all the things, to the extent permitted to the human reason by God. Yet I hold that completely erroneous views should be shunned. Those who that the consensus of many centuries has sanctioned that the conception of earth remains at rest in the middle of the heavens as its center would, I reflected, regard it as an insane pronouncement if I made the opposite assertion that the earth moves. Okay, so then he's just talking about how he debated whether he wants to write it or not, and how basically I've read through this, and he's just trying to get on the Pope's good side, right? And there were a few things that I wanted to point out, like this. He made the opposite assertions. Those that the consensus of many centuries has sanctioned the conception that the earth remains at rest in the middle of the heavens as its center would, I reflected, regard it as an insane pronouncement if I made the opposite assertion that the earth moves. Now that is insane, because it doesn't move. Like I don't feel any movement. The sky moves, and it rotates around one star. So, we're not going to get super far into that, but this guy, basically, he's an astrologer, and he's trying to, open up the mind, to the idea of the earth being a ball of somebody in power, right? This Pope. He's got a high power position. So I should have done this last night, but there we go. Perhaps there will be babblers who claim to be judges of astronomy, although completely ignorant of the subject, badly distorting some passages to their purpose, will dare to find fault with my undertaking and censure it. Alright? I disregard them even to the extent of despising their criticism as unfounded, for it is not that Lactantius, otherwise an illustrious writer but hardly an astronomer, speaks quite childishly about the earth's shape when he mocks those who declared the earth as the form of a globe. Hence, scholars will not be surprised if any such person will likewise ridicule me. Astronomy is written for astronomers. To them, my work, too, will seem, unless I am mistaken, to make some contribution. Okay, so basically, this guy wants the backup, the support of the Pope. He wants his, and that's in my opinion why I think that the copyright was put on the map. And we got 1543, right? 1543. The maps was only in production for a few years, and then Pope puts a 10-year copyright on it. So if you put a 10-year copyright on it, it doesn't say what year officially, but if you put a 10-year copyright on it around this time, that would mean that in 1555 would be long enough for Olaus to get his book out, which contained his map. Okay, he needed his map in his book. I'm pretty sure, like it was kind of necessary for the book. So here is the map that was copyrighted. Okay, printed in Rome, and it was the most accurate depiction of its time. All right, that's like the main thing. This was the most accurate depiction of its time. So that's quite a bit of incentive for a Pope to put a copyright on it. Alright, and advocated for the colonization of the mythical Swedish North. Alright, so this is where stuff gets kind of interesting. Alright, you have his book, and it's in Latin, but I mean, there's an English translation that came out. I haven't been able to find it exactly, but some of the best things that I did find is this website right here. I think it's kind of odd. They have the English translation available, and you can preview a lot of this stuff. You can get the abstract of it, but this book, 815 pages divided into 22 books and a total of 778 chapters. Lavishly illustrated with 480 woodcuts, most of them closely relevant to the technical matters discussed by the author. So he's giving detailed illustrations, all right, of things in this story, and people are calling a lot of this fiction. They're like, "Oh, it was super accurate." This was super accurate up until the point of it wasn't accurate. Like he had their food, how they acted, like what kind of people there were. But then when it goes to other things, then it talks about giants and crazy stuff like that. Like on this one, I'm pretty sure right here. This is one of the things I found. I thought it was just awesome because it just put me right back onto this whole series that I started. You got this picture right here, and this is on the map. This is on the Carta Marina, so I'll show you. It's right up here in this corner, very top of the map. Alright, and we have, let's see here, this guy. Starkoth, Starkather, an ancient fist fighter as a guardian. Okay, so he was an ancient fist fighter, Swedish fish fire. Olaus Magnus stated that the magnetic island was 30 miles under the pole. The North Pole he had placed clearly outside of his map. So, these are the islands. These are the islands, and this is the magnetic north, right here. I've talked about it in other videos. So, basically, I just wanted to point people into this, into the direction of this information because I think it's honestly like good stuff. And you know, if you don't know what I'm talking about here, just check this out. We have the map. This was drawn up by Mercator, but this is supposed to be the North Pole, 1595, the North Pole map. So, you know, that this is a older map depicting those same islands. Not in detail, but the amount of other stuff on this map is just ridiculous, man. Like, he outlines it all in his book. So you have this. I got a preview of his book here, and it goes through. It's like 186 pages. And one thing I thought was interesting, it mentions giants in here. Should load up. I know it mentioned giants in here like a lot. It's just not loading right now. There it is. One of them loaded up. I think it says it in like 17 times over the 180 pages. He talked about giants in this book, and I want to get a full 14 times so far it's picked up. So I want to get a full copy, right? And this is the English translation, and I tried to get access, right? You need to get access, and it brings you to this login. But the first time I clicked on get access, it was, I think it was one of these. No, it's just, alright. Well, before, there was a pop-up, and it said, in order to get access, you must apply with your university in order to see if you're qualified. So, I don't know, maybe there's another copy out there of this that I can get my hands on to read, because I want to read the whole thing. But I can't, I can't get access on this site, and there's a lot of, I've kind of been hitting this wall no matter where I get. I have found there's a lot of like papers on it and stuff, but, like, I wanna read this. I read this English translation and, see what he was writing about. Because he made this thing on his own press, and the information's out there, but he did it himself, right? Now, if I had my work copyright in the past by a powerful figure, I would be pretty upset, and I would do my best to have as much control over it as I possibly could. And I think that's what Olaus did. And if you look up this guy, most of the information on him, most of the stuff that we know about him, came from Olaus's book. Most of it. Like, this is from his book, this is from his book, this is from his book. All these pictures, they're from his book. And now that goes back to the thumbnail too. It's like, he was depicting quite a bit of tech, if you ask me. There was a lot of tech that Olaus has witnessed. You can look at some of these, like, look at these mortars, man, like, just crazy stuff. And you get pictures like this, cannons being rolled up, big cannons on wheels, and the castles that have big giant cannons just sticking out the side. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, this is exaggeration made by the artist. But it's like, man, it's not just about the pictures of the cannons. And there's like down here, this is 7 pages. 7 pages of high resolution pictures. And then towards the end you get these ones that aren't available. They're only available in the book, or they've been removed. You cannot click on them. They do not work. They're broken. Okay, so this just leads me to believe I've found some sort of hidden information. Because they also have, this is one thing that stood out to me on here, the thunderbolts, the astonishing effects of thunderbolts. And I'm going to be looking in, maybe doing a whole video on this, because I feel like this is kind of a topic that a lot of people are interested in. So this is going to be something I might be making like a specific video on, and trying to see what exactly I can find on it, because it's very interesting. So this is basically saying we shouldn't believe that this is actually true. I'm getting a phone call. Alright, so it seems that, as my buddy, I'll call him back in a second, I'm almost done here. So basically, this subtle power fused silver inside small chests, which themselves remained whole and undamaged, and can melt a sword while the sheath remains unharmed. That although the wooden shafts of javelins is unhurt, all the iron liquefies. That when a great wine jar is broken, the wine continues to stand upright, but is rigidly does not last for more than 3 days. This should equally be noted that of all men and animals that are struck, the head faces towards the source of the thunderbolt, and all trees that are struck stand upright like spear shafts. In snakes and other animals which contained a lethal version or a lethal venom, all the poison is destroyed after they have been hit by a thunderbolt. In poisoned bodies, maggots do not breed, but those struck by a thunderbolt grow maggot-ridden within a few days. You know, it's just very interesting. You know, these effects of thunderbolt upon what it touches are more to be marveled than examined for their causes. For who has discovered the reason why silver is sometimes fused inside small chests, which themselves are whole and undamaged, or why a sword melts while its sheath remains unharmed, why iron liquefies round hewn wood, why a thunderbolt makes wine, you know, and you know, it's just very interesting that it's like he wrote about this stuff like he had witnessed it. And again, thunder, no, I mean, there is a ton of good information. I want this book, and I'm going to find this book, and I'm going to share all of the very interesting stuff I find in it. And it doesn't even give you every chapter. That's the thing too, like, it doesn't give you every chapter. Or maybe it does. 145. So keep in mind, this is a translation, so it's not actually as long. 488 pages. They probably removed a lot of stuff too. I mean, you know, we all know about censorship and how that works. But it's a quattro volume. He wrote 4 volumes and divided into 22 books and a total of 778 chapters. And I read somewhere, I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but that's like the same as the Bible. I'm going to look it up quick and then I'm going to end the stream. Okay, so books and chapters. $260 chapters. 22 chapters in Revelation. That's the one it was. It was 22 chapters in Revelation, and he had 22 books. Oh wait, no, the Bible has 22 books. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. How many books in the Bible? 22. Alright. But yeah, so 22, and then his last book, or last chapter, has 22 chapters, like Revelation. So that's something that I kind of found to be pretty odd. The more I get into this, like, rabbit hole, the more interesting information I find. So I want to keep going, and I was going to start with getting this book. Got to get access. And, you know, to get access on this website, you need to have... Okay, with Orchid, to submit your research for publication and access your dashboard, or with Shibboleth or Open Athens to access research made available through your institution. So you have to, like, get this information given to you through this website. Like I said, there might be another way, but with that, I'm going to end off the stream. Thank you for anybody that decided to tune in and watch. I had not looked at the comments at all if anybody was watching live. But yeah, this is FE for life, and I'll probably be doing some streams more frequently now. As you can see, I got kind of a new setup going on here, and yeah, hopefully I'll get things going. So yeah, thanks everybody, and remember just to, you know, don't just believe everything you hear, and do your own research. Like independent research is the key to finding out what's actually going on. I see it every single day. I'm exposed to, like, this mockingbird media, this like agenda, this propaganda that they're pushing on the mainstream right now, and that's the type of stuff you want to avoid. I mean, you could use it as like a referral or a resource, kind of, in a sense, to like get information, but definitely cross-check and cross-reference your sources and make sure that the information that you're choosing to believe is accurate. And I believe that there's some, you know, some truth to some of Olaus's writings, and I want to get this book in the English translation so I can see exactly what, you know, I'm gonna choose to believe, because like I said earlier, you know, his description of the northern people, it was actually, like, really popular because of the fact that there was no good, like, sources of information for the people that lived in the far north, and he just so happened to create a map along with a writing with that map that had a lot of the stuff, a lot of the information about the people, the religion, and everything. And then on top of that, you know, after the copyright, again, you know, he released his book, which, right here. So the map came out first, and the map had a lot of good information on it too, but I haven't even found like a untranslated version of that yet. I haven't looked for it though either. But the one thing I'm going to focus on is this description of the northern peoples, and that's what I have right here on this. I don't even know what to call that. It's not a paywall, you know. It's like an education wall. You gotta be educated, and, you know, I'm gonna figure it out though, and I'll be making a probably really long, detailed video of it when I get there. Hopefully, I haven't been going on for too long and bored everybody. But yeah, take it easy, and I hope everybody has a good rest of their week.